Okay? But check out the rest of this.
I don't hold with the extremists who feel that there should be open season for murder all year round. No, personally, I would prefer to have cut a throat week or strangulation day.
Probably a symptom of approaching senility, but I must confess that I really don't appreciate this morbid humor.
But the humor was unintentional.
But you're not serious about these theories.
Of course he is.
So you're both pulling my leg.
No, why do you think that?
Well, Brandon, the notion that murder is an art which a few superior beings should be allowed to practice.
In season.
Well, now I know you're not serious.
But I am. I'm a very serious fellow.
Then may I ask, who is to decide that a human being is inferior and is therefore a suitable victim for murder?
The few who are privileged to commit murder.
And just who might they be?
Oh, myself. Philip. Possibly Rupert. Well, I'm sorry, Kenneth, you're out.
Gentlemen, I'm serious.
So are we, Mr. Kentley. The few are those men of such intellectual and cultural superiority that they're above the traditional moral concepts. Good and evil, right and wrong, were invented for the ordinary average man, the inferior man, because he needs them.
Then obviously you agree with Nietzsche and his theory of the Superman.
Yes, I do.
So did Hitler.
Hitler was a parrot.
So they feel like they're above the moral law. All right? And the thing is that if you don't have any morals or values, you're like an animal. Okay? So the thing is, they talked about the Superman. And there's a German word, it's the Übermensch. Okay? And the Übermensch, it means the Superman. And this was one of Nietzsche's theories. Okay? But he got that from somebody else. But see, these people believe, and once you understand this, you'll begin to understand the system. They believe that they will become God. And not only will they become God, they will exceed God. All right? I have a quote from one of them that says, God has no jurisdiction on this earth. Okay? So these people are very sick-minded, and they're going to do all types of things because it's a mind that's being influenced by Shaitan. All right? Go ahead, good brother.
Yeah, it's really people out there like that.
Yes. Well, you see one. You see one now that's in the office. He has an elitist mindset. Okay? All of those people in government, a lot of them, I won't say all, I say a lot of them believe this way. Okay? The people that run this system believe this way.
I was just listening to Minister Farrakhan. He had a documentary on last night on YouTube, and it was talking about Chicago. And then Trump was saying that he was going to send the National Guard into Chicago and just start killing those who are killing others. Bottom line, and this goes back to they already planning a massacre in certain cities. They already are.
Well, it's just like AIDS, planned massacre.
Yeah.
Okay? A lot of stuff that they're doing are planned massacres. Like the guy said, it has to be an intelligent way of, getting rid of people.
What comes to mind is Louisiana and how many days it took
Right.
for those people to
That's right.
suffer.
Right.
And you could send money all over the world and help everybody else. And for days, people were hungry and suffering, and the way they portrayed those people that were trying to get food for their children. And some people think that their dam was also blown up. So it's a lot of...
Yeah.
Yep.
But see, that's the whole thing. Go ahead, brother.
Two things. Most people in here read a magazine called National Geographic, which has a lot of good articles in it. But one of the recent articles that they have, it says the new traditional roles. Lawmakers, male, female, men, women. In the magazine, I think it's on the cover of it, it says the new roles. And they got like 9 different new roles. Transsexual, blah, blah, blah. It's like 9 or 10 of them, different ones. And that's the new roles for men and women. And also, as a teacher, I have a student, a male student, and he doesn't want to be, he's decided he's going to be a female. And all of the teachers, instead of calling him, I won't say his name,
All right.
we're supposed to call him Sasha. I'm not calling him. I'm not calling him by a female name. You
Right.
can do whatever you want. I want to call him by the name that's on the wall.
Yeah.
So that's the type of thing, that's the future.
But see, it goes back to what Malcolm X said. What did he say? He said, when you put the education of your children in the hands of your enemy, your children will become your enemy. Okay? So they're turning our children against us. Because they're the main, they spend the most time with our children, besides the social media and the internet and all that stuff. Because our kids go to them in the morning, come back late afternoon, then we're tired. Oh man, just worked that late shift. Don't have time to really spend with my kids. And now they're on social media, internet, television. So they're being programmed. All right?
All the students call them such.
Right, because that's been made to be acceptable. Right, that's been made to be acceptable.
Like I got a niece-in-law, you know what I'm saying? Like, we seen them trade center, you know what I mean, young. Now she done got married, she in the service married, now she done hit us with the joint, she want the whole change. She like, my name not Sierra no more, my name Theo. I said, I ain't calling you Theo. Like, and I mean, I hate to get like that, but you not allowed at my house like that. I don't want that to influence my daughter. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, it's crazy. Yeah, she got a wife, she married.
But see, in Oregon, but this is what's crazy. In Oregon, the government subsidizes for 15-year-olds to get sex change operations without parental consent. And this is in Oregon, without parental consent. Okay? I know one of the brothers over here wants to say something. Oh.
Yeah, like Shay was talking about New Orleans, Jesse Ventura was telling about where they were sending the people to the Homeland Security places. Said that it really wasn't to house them for them to be secure from from the environment and all that. They have it whereas they are locked inside. They cannot come outside.
Wow.
There's no handles inside for any of the doors.
Wow.
They are locked from the inside. So it's not to help them, it's to keep them in a concentration.
And I remember years ago reading how the military was hiring for internment camp specialists. Okay? Because this was going to be something that was going to be needed down the line.
So that's recently?
Oh yeah, this was a while ago. I would say maybe that'd be good, maybe about 5 years ago or 5 or 6 years ago when I saw that article and a video with it.
Well, they've done that before in World War II.
Oh yeah, exactly. They did it to the Japanese. And it's funny because people's like, well, how do they know where all these Japanese people were at? You know how? Through the census. That's what the census is about. Because you write down everybody that's in the house, you know who you are, your nationality, everything. So that's how they were able to round up those Japanese people during World War II. Let me see, I'll finish this one up.
His supermen, all fascist supermen, were brainless murderers. I'd hang any who were left. But then you see, I'd hang them first for being stupid. I'd hang all incompetents and fools anyway. There are far too many in the world.
Then perhaps you should hang me, Brandon, for I confess I'm so stupid I don't know whether you're all serious or not. But in any case, I'd rather not hear any more of your, forgive me, contempt for humanity and for the standards of a world that I believe is civilized.
Civilized?
Yes.
Perhaps what is called civilization is hypocrisy.
Perhaps.
Well, I'm sure Rupert, fortunately,
Now, gentlemen,
has the intelligence and imagination
Please,
to...
Brandon, I think we've had just about enough.
But you can see, like I said, once you start to understand this, you'll understand their philosophy and their belief system. All right? But let me show you this. Oh, wait a minute. Hold that thought. Let me show you, this real quick. Let me show you this. Because this is important. How many of you know of a guy named Reza Aslan? Anybody ever heard that name before? Reza Aslan?
The name sounds familiar.
Okay. But now, I want you to watch Reza operate. All right? Check Reza out. 'Cause
Defenders of Islam insist it is a peaceful religion.
So this is the media doing one of their little shindigs on trying to bash Islam. All right? But check out how this brother handles these people.
Right.
All right?
I've seen them.
Agree and point to the primitive treatment in Muslim countries of women and other minorities.
So let's discuss this now. We're joined now by Reza Aslan, a scholar of religions, a professor at the University of California, Riverside, and the author of Zealot, The Life and Times of Jesus of Nazareth. Let's talk about this because it's a very interesting conversation every time we have it. Before we get into this discussion, I want to play for you this clip from Bill Maher's show just this Friday night. Here it is.
President Obama keeps insisting that ISIS is...
And this big mouth guy right here, he's an
Atheist.
Yeah, he's an atheist, and he's a strong supporter of homosexuality. All right?
Well, maybe they don't practice the Muslim faith the same way he does. But if vast numbers of Muslims across the world believe, and they do, that humans deserve to die for merely holding a different idea, or drawing a cartoon, or writing a book, or eloping with the wrong person, not only does the Muslim world have something in common with ISIS, it has too much in common with ISIS. There's so much talk. You can applaud.
He went on for a good 5 or 6 minutes about that, talking about how women are circumcision for women, not respecting the rights of women, not respecting the rights of gay people. And what's your reaction? And then we'll talk.
Well, I like Bill Maher. I've been on his show a bunch of times. He's a comedian, but, you know, frankly, when it comes to the topic of religion, he's not very sophisticated in the way that he thinks. I mean, the argument about the female genital mutilation being an Islamic problem is a perfect example of that. It's not an Islamic problem, it's an African problem.
Well, wait, because he says it's a, hold on a second, Reza, because he says it's a Muslim country problem. He says that in Somalia...
Yeah, but that's, and that's actually empirically, factually incorrect. It's a Central African problem. Eritrea has almost 90% female genital mutilation. It's a Christian country. Ethiopia has 75% female genital mutilation. It's a Christian country. Nowhere else in the Muslim majority states is female genital mutilation an issue. But again, this is the problem, is that you make these facile arguments like that women are somehow mistreated in the Muslim world. Well, that's certainly true in many Muslim majority countries like Iran and Saudi Arabia. Do you know that Muslims have elected 7 women as their heads of states in those Muslim majority countries? How many women do we have as head of states in the United States?
Reza, to be honest, though, for the most part, it is not a free and open society for women in those states.
Well, it's not in Iran, it's not in Saudi Arabia, it certainly is in Indonesia and Malaysia, it certainly is in Bangladesh, it certainly is in Turkey. I mean, again, this is the problem, is that you're talking about a religion of 1.5 billion people, and certainly it becomes very easy to just simply paint them all with a single brush by saying, well, in Saudi Arabia they can't drive, and so therefore that's somehow representative of Islam. It's representative of Saudi Arabia.
But
in Iran, they don't have...
I mean, I think that Bill Maher's point is that these aren't extremists. We often talk about extremists and that we should crack down on extremists. And why aren't Muslims speaking out about extremists? In Saudi Arabia, when women can't vote and they can't drive and they need permission from their husband, that's not extremists. Why aren't we talking more about what... That's not extremist, that's commonplace. Why don't we talk more about the commonplace wrongs that are happening in some of these countries?
It's extremist when compared to the rights and responsibilities of women, Muslim women around the world. It's an extremist way of dealing with it.
But it's not extremist in that. It's not extremist in that country. In Saudi Arabia, that's the norm.
Oh no, it's not. I mean, look, Saudi Arabia is one of the most, if not the most extremist Muslim country in the world. In the month that we've been talking about ISIS and their terrible actions in Iraq and Syria, Saudi Arabia, our closest ally, has beheaded 19 people. Nobody seems to care about that because Saudi Arabia sort of preserves our national interests. You know, this is the problem, is that these kinds of conversations that we're having aren't really being had in any kind of legitimate way. We're not talking about women in the Muslim world. We're using 2 or 3 examples to justify a generalization. That's actually the definition of bigotry.
All right, fair enough. Let's listen to Benjamin Netanyahu at the United Nations today.
So when it comes to their ultimate goals, Hamas is ISIS, and ISIS is Hamas. And what they share in common, all militant Islamists share in common.
So Reza, the question at the bottom of the screen that everyone is looking at. Does Islam promote violence?
No.
Islam doesn't promote violence or peace. Islam is just a religion, and like every religion in the world, it depends on what you bring to it. If you're a violent person, your Islam, your Judaism, your Christianity, your Hinduism is going to be violent. There are marauding Buddhist monks in Myanmar slaughtering women and children. Does Buddhism promote violence? Of course not. People are violent or peaceful, and that depends on their politics, their social world, the way that they see their communities, the way they see themselves.
So Reza, you don't think that there's anything more, there's the justice system in Muslim countries, you don't think is somehow more primitive or subjugates women more than in other countries?
Did you hear what you just said? You said in Muslim countries. I just told you that Indonesia, women are absolutely 100% equal to men. In Turkey, they have had more female representatives, more female heads of state in Turkey than we have in the United States.
But in Pakistan,
stop saying things like Muslim countries.
Women are still being stoned.
And that's
to
a
death.
problem for Pakistan.
So in other words, I just want to be clear on what your point is, because I thought you and Bill Maher were saying the same thing.
But see, the thing is that he's learned it, he's studied. So he can defend Islam. And that's how we need to be. You know, each and every one of us should be able to handle their talking points.
That's right.
When they start lying and, you know.
I have a statement to make.
Go ahead.
Most people forget about the suffrage movement here in the United States when women couldn't vote.
Right.
So they forget about that when they talk about equal rights. They forget that women couldn't even vote in this country.
Well, see, it's funny because the Quran says mankind is very forgetful. Okay? Because we don't remember a lot of stuff that's going on. Okay? But
I'm sorry. And I had to tell a coworker that history will prove that you don't have to be a Muslim to be evil. So she couldn't say anything. You know, if you don't have to be a Muslim, I started talking about Hitler and everything else that people have done. You don't have to be a Muslim, you know.
Well, evil can't even be associated with Muslim. Because what is a Muslim? A Muslim is someone who submits their will to the will of God. Okay? So we need to learn how to defend Islam. Okay? Because these people have been lying on us for the longest. They lied and said we committed 9/11. And no doggone well we didn't do that. Okay? Right. Oh yeah, but it was a lot more that Michael Moore could have done, because he didn't even go to the extent that he could have gone, because they did that. Okay? They took them buildings out of there. Okay? But
that's not only Muslims saying that. I mean, that's a lot of Caucasians that know it.
Right.
It's fact.
Right. Well, they have a whole what they call a 9/11 truth movement, where these people are coming out and saying, "Hey, look, there's no way. This was an inside job." Okay, because those buildings came down like an implosion. Okay, there's no way that buildings would go down just like this, both of them, right? But then the other thing is, a lot of people don't know that a third building fell in New York that day. All right, and they don't talk about that. It was Building 7. Okay, that building came down. No plane touched it. But their explanation was that debris from the Twin Towers fell, hit that building, caused an internal fire, and caused that building to collapse, which made no sense.
It is ridiculous.
Right.
Whose brother was in there 3 days before they evacuated the building? George Bush's brother owns a demolition company.
Wow.
They evacuated both of those towers, and they were in there. They claimed it was some problem with the elevators and this and the other. They planted those explosions, right?
Well, see, the whole thing is, if you watch a video is called, you can look it up on YouTube, it's called Loose Change, 2nd edition. Check that out. It'll blow your mind when you look at that day and the events and what took place.
And as well, I can't understand how a few men with box cutters and all the men on the airplane couldn't beat up a couple of guys with box cutters. That just don't seem
Doesn't make
right
any
to
sense.
me. Because even the females could have taken them guys down with box cutters.
But see, you got to remember, the media controls perception. And when I can control your perception, I have total control over you, because I control how you see the world. Okay? So through television, there was a guy, he said he had a friend in the CIA, and his friend from the CIA said, he said, never watch the television. And he repeated, never watch the television, because it's the greatest indoctrination tool ever devised by man. Okay? So they can change your whole outlook on the world if you allow them to. Okay?
Muslim countries are not to blame. There is nothing particular, there's no common thread in Muslim countries. You can't paint with a broad brush that somehow their justice system or Sharia law or what they're doing in terms of stoning and female mutilation is different than in other countries like Western countries.
Stoning and mutilation and those barbaric practices should be condemned and criticized by everyone. The actions of individuals and societies and countries like Iran, like Pakistan, like Saudi Arabia must be condemned because they don't belong in the 21st century. But to say Muslim countries as though Pakistan and Turkey are the same, as though Indonesia and Saudi Arabia are the same, as though somehow what is happening in the most extreme forms of these repressive countries, these autocratic countries, is representative of what's happening in every other Muslim country, is frankly, and I use this word seriously, stupid. So let's stop doing that.
Okay, Reza, let's listen. I want you to listen to Benjamin Netanyahu again. This is actually the one I wanted you to hear.
Yeah, the ISIS.
Our hopes and the world's hopes for peace are in danger because everywhere we look, militant Islam is on the march. It's not militants, it's not Islam, it's militant Islam. And typically, its first victims are other Muslims, but it spares no one.
He's making a clear distinction there. He says it's not militants, it's not Islam, it's militant Islam. Do you understand his distinction there? Is he correct?
Well, he's correct in talking about militant Islam being a problem. He is absolutely incorrect in talking about ISIS equaling Hamas. That's just ridiculous. No one takes him seriously when he says things like that. And frankly, it's precisely why under his leadership, Israel has become so incredibly isolated from the rest of the global community. Those kinds of statements are illogical, they're irrational, they're so obviously propagandistic. In fact, he went so far as to then bring up the Nazis, which has become kind of a verbal tick for him whenever he brings up either Hamas or ISIS. Again, these kinds of oversimplifications, I think, only cause more danger. There is a very real problem. ISIS is a problem. Al-Qaeda is a problem. These militant Islamic groups like Hamas, like Hezbollah, like the Taliban have to be dealt with. But it doesn't actually help us to deal with them when instead of talking about rational conflicts, rational criticisms of a particular religion, we instead so easily slip into bigotry by simply painting everyone with a single brush, as we have been doing in this conversation, mind you.
Well, we're just asking you questions. Wow. That's how you're answering. That you answered very fairly. We appreciate it. Thank you, Reza Aslan.
We appreciate your perspective and helping everyone understand your perspective.
126 Muslim.
They said, show over.
Yeah, let's go to commercial.
Get him out of here. Call the cab. Aslan. Yeah. A-S-L-A-N. R-E-Z-A-A-S-L-A-N. He's Muslim.
Find him on YouTube.
Yeah, he's a Muslim brother. But now, kind of going back to what we were talking about. When we talk about the rule. Oh no, so you're fine. It's an open discussion.
Don't forget that in my lifetime, we couldn't vote in this country. So when you talk about justice and equality,
Yeah, you're absolutely right. We were treated horribly. All right, but we're also being viewed by them as inferior people. So they'll do whatever they want to do to us. And that's the reality of it, okay? But I want you to see some of this so that you can get an idea of just how cruel this philosophy is, all right? this is a documentary called White Light, Black Rain, all right? And it's about when they dropped the bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, all right? But check some of this out. Let me see. It says on July 16, 1945, the United States tested the world's first atomic bomb. On August 6th and 9th, the new bomb was dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the only times nuclear weapons have been used in war, right? The American government suppressed photographs and film footage depicting the aftermath of the bombings for 25 years. So they hid it from the public for 25 years, all right? But in this documentary, they show you what happened, all right? The stuff that they were suppressing. So this is, I think this is Hiroshima, all right? But I want you to hear the question. Oh, wait. All right, it says 75% of the population of Japan was born after 1945, all right? But listen to this.
まあ最初に1945年の8月6日。
Let me see. Subtitle. Come on.
何が起きたのかを知っていたら教えてください。
1945？
8月6日。
8月6日わかんないんだけど。歴史にが。
Just a little bit.
まあ最初に1945年の8月6日に何が起きたのかを知っていたら教えてください。
1945？
8月6日。
8月6日わかんないんだけど。
Here, their country was the only one that an atomic bomb had ever been dropped on, and they don't even know. Yeah. Okay.
歴史苦手な。
わかんないですね。
ちょっとわからない。
いや、知らない。
わかんない。わかんない。なんか来た。
Something important happened.
地震
So when the education system is controlled, right? They're not teaching them about history. That's just like our children not learning about slavery. All right? They're not learning about what their ancestors went through. And the crazy thing about it is, we had a mural on the wall in one school, and they had a mural of Rosa Parks. The kids drew a penis in her mouth. And the reason is because they don't, she just, any lady they think. Okay? So it's kind of horrible, the state that we're in. But now let me show you some of the survivors. Because I want you to hear their story, just a little bit from their story.
When I looked around, it was pitch black. Then no sound. Then pretty soon, the blackness going away.
Now, if you look at it, you can see how her bone was like melted.
Black go away now. Then see sort of a gray and moving people. I thought.
So she said